Hello. Thank you guys all for coming, and thank you for the doctors who flew in from India to be here to share with us. Of the thousands of IVF doctors that are in India, we have 3 leading doctors that are here. We have Dr. Jayesh, Dr. Naral. I'm probably saying the names all incorrectly, so you can probably please. Thank you. Okay.
It's not that important.
So why don't you tell us where in India? We'll start with Dr. Amin. Tell us where you're from in India, how long you've been in business, and a little bit about your clinic.
Yes, I'm Dr. Jayesh Amin from India, and I have been for IVF since last 10 years and giving something very parenthood to the couples for more than 2,000 couples. And I have started one huge setup at my since last 1 years, where we are having a state of the art of the technology that we can say it's India's first 0.3 micron IVF lab. We can say it's we are also having for improve the success rate, the time lapse techniques, and I will say that we have got a very good expert doctor team with including in-house 2 clinical embryologists, where one will only focusing on the improving the outputs in the surrogacy. Thank you.
Hi, myself Dr. Neeraj Pelajani. I'm from Central India. Our hospital where we work is into IVF from last 25 years, rather I should say more than 25 years. And I am into the IVF from last 8 or 9 years. I can only say that as far as techniques and technology in surrogacy are concerned, there is not much of a difference if we compare the countries. What I feel that surrogacy is more of a business of trust and emotions. So only 20% has to, I should say the credit should goes to science, and 80% should goes to the team efforts. Not only the doctors, it includes the attorneys, the surrogates, their families. So whenever we deal, our hospital policy is that whenever we are dealing with the surrogacy, we should keep in mind that we have to safeguard in trust of all the 3 parties, because we are not only contributing to what we say as a child bearing factories, rather we are equally responsible for the children born out of surrogacy, that they should have a quality parenting. So we make it a point that the intended parents, the surrogates and their families, as well as the children born out of surrogacy, the interest of all these parties should be maintained, and the procedure, the journey of surrogacy should be hassle-free for the intended parents as well as for the surrogates. So this is basically our concern, that we personalize the care and we look into the human emotions and make it a point that everything goes smooth, and at the end all 3 are happy going back home, and we are also happy doing a good job. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anjali. I'm placed in Central India, Maharashtra, in Mumbai. Everybody is aware of Mumbai. It's a well-known, it's a financial capital of India. Both myself and my husband work as a team. Both are in this field of infertility. For last 14 years, we have got a infertility clinic in central Mumbai, a place called Dadar, which is not too far away, 15 minutes distance from the airport. We have been in UK from 90 to 95, and we have completed our training over there after finishing our post-graduation in India. After coming back, we also have another clinic in the suburb of Mumbai, which is around 30 minutes away from the clinic in the Dadar. And they both serve different purposes. The clinic in Dadar exclusively is involved in the ART, that is IVF ICSI. The clinic which is placed in the suburb, it does all the things concerned with the donors, surrogate, their screening, the management of their protocol, taking care of the surrogate. We have got a different surrogate house to take care of the surrogate, and we take care of the surrogates right from the beginning to the delivery. So that's what we are doing. I'll be having a lecture, and later on we'll be speaking about how the surrogacy happens in India, so I should not elaborate on that point too much.
Right. I mean, I had 3 children that were born in India, and because I have a business, people are always asking, where do the surrogates come from? Where do the egg donors come from? I know a lot of the doctors in India use agencies, so maybe you each can explain to us where you get your egg donors and surrogates and how they're vetted. The ladies can start first.
See, earlier it was like the surrogates used to contact the clinics directly, though we are still getting those direct inquiries as well. But now, because the surrogacy has become more regulated and formulated in India, so the picture of the agencies has come into picture. That Indian Council of Medical Research, they have made it a point that the clinics should not be directly involved with the surrogates. They should have an agency in between them, so that one of the things that I've heard over the international front, that they think that the Indian surrogates are being exploited. This is not exactly the case. They are usually from a background where they are looking surrogacy as an additional source of income, not as a basic source of income. So nowadays, to make things easier for the intended parents, we do involve the agencies in between us as well as the IPs, so that things, as I've already said, the interest of all the 3 parties should be safeguarded, and the paperwork should be very well done and should be done in time, so that none of the parties should feel cheated at the end of the treatment. So to make all those things very simple, we make it a point that the agency should be there in between us. So might be over a couple of years or 5 years down the lane, the direct entries of the surrogates walking into the clinic and offering themselves to be surrogate will be stopped. But what we usually follow in our clinic, that if there is any such inquiry, we guide them to an agency who will do the screening procedure. They'll take their psychological counselor, take them to psychological counselors, do all their tests, and once all those tests are done, then that agency will make an agreement with us that they want, and we will say yes to that surrogate, and then we will enter into surrogacy. That is usually what we are following.
At present, that is also one most important thing, that you have to give a higher success rate, and apart from the screening procedure, whatever the everybody in India is now following that guidelines according to ICMR, that we always following the surrogacy agency for the choosing the surrogate mothers. But apart from their choosing, it is also required something that for clinical part, we have something filtering process, that we do have something selection of the endometrium, and other something very personalized approach by our paramedical staff. So that is also important at the end of the day. Even only surrogacy agency cannot give this type of outcome. So we do have at our clinic, with the help of the surrogacy agency, with our some paramedical staff and our assistant obstetricians, he will looking after all these things and see the selections whether it is proper or not. So at the end of the day, we do have something better filtration of the surrogate mothers regarding their where they are residing and everything what we have confirmed by the agency, and then we will select the second filtration procedures, so you can get more better surrogates, more better outputs, and more better success rates.
You can say that the agency first are the filter, then second we are the clinician, because we simply cannot blindly rely on what information the agencies do provide us. So if they're coming with any of the medical reports to us, we do confirm it. We do one. See, this is my personal approach, that once the surrogate is coming to us, we do a detailed examination, we check the reports, and if there is any additional information that I want to check the uterus, either by hysteroscopy or by the detailed ultrasound myself, so I make it a point that the ultrasound should be done by myself or one of my team members. And there are few things that we can rely on the agencies, but there are certain things which are important as far as the outcome of the treatment is concerned, which I want to do on my own. For that, I will not rely on anybody, whether it's an agency or any other doctor.
I think at the moment, as Dr. Neeraj has mentioned, that ART bill is in the process of draft. It is in the draft phase now. It is not yet passed as an act. So currently we are following ICMR guidelines, and the ART bill draft proposes that there is a legal body, a separate legal body between ART clinic and the surrogates. which is labeled as ART bank, and that should be responsible for sourcing of gamete donors and surrogates. But having said that, now ICMR is in the process of making a national registry of ART clinic, which is near the stage of completion. But the forms of ART banks are just preliminary applications are being accepted. So at present, there are not legal entities like ART banks, although they are proposing to produce such legal bodies. So at the moment, ART clinics themselves are screening all the donors and the surrogates. And I don't think it's a bad system, because that gives an opportunity for ART clinician to see the gamete donors, to evaluate their fitness, and to see what is necessary and good for the intending parents. So there is only one intermediary between the intending parents and the surrogate. There are not too many intermediaries. If you place too many intermediaries, there is insensible loss of money in between. That's going to happen. Yep. That means surrogate will not be benefited to that extent. At the same time, the cost of the infrastructure will have to be borne by the intending parents. So currently the situation is that ART clinics are doing the same job as ART banks are supposed to do in future.
Okay. And I know when you were talking about guidelines and new proposals and a lot of different things that are happening in India, surrogacy always seems to be in flux. Although I think, for me personally, since I've had 3 children in India, India will always be near and dear to my heart. One of the questions a lot of IPs will ask in regards to surrogates is housing. And I'm wondering how you feel about surrogates being housed. Our surrogate with our twins, she was housed after 6 months. I didn't have any issue with her being at home. Many clinics do not house surrogates. Many do, and I'm kind of interested in your thoughts.
I think there are options given. There is an option of staying in the surrogate house. There is another option of domiciliary care. This option has to be discussed with intending parent before doing everything, before making an agreement, before doing embryo transfer, because that has to be mutually agreed by both surrogate as well as intending parents. Sometimes the situation is that surrogate is ready to do surrogacy, but for 9 months stay, they are not ready.
One of our guidelines to select surrogate is that she should be married and she should have produced at least 1 child in the past to save any future complication. So it is really very tough for any woman, even if we will put ourselves into that scenario, to leave their family, to leave their job, and to leave their kids and stay in a surrogate home or in any of the clinic for 9 months to just deliver a child. I think it's practically not possible. And we are not dealing with machines, rather we are dealing with humans, so emotions are equally good. So when we are doing the initial filtering, so whenever we are dealing with the surrogates, we give them both the options, the surrogate staying in surrogate homes as well as the domiciliary care. Most of them, they do get agree to the domiciliary care. At times, if the woman is staying single and the kids are in the hostel, then they are willing to stay in the surrogate homes. So we keep a separate record that who are willing for the domiciliary care and who are willing to stay in the surrogate homes. So when the intended parent approach to us, we give them, we discuss all these issues with them. That look, after the pregnancy, there are 2 types of care that we can give to the surrogate, but we make it a point that at 8 months, once we are close to 33-34 weeks, the surrogates will shifted to the clinic, especially if they are carrying multiples, so that in case there is any emergency, we can bail it on time and there should not be any mishaps. And if the intended parents are willing to go with domiciliary, we offer them, we show only those surrogates, and if they want that the surrogate should be in the surrogate homes, then we show them the option. These are the options that we can look at. But we make it a point that if the surrogate is going for a domiciliary care, she should be recruited to a nearby good clinic where she can go for any nature call, because ultimately it's like a natural pregnancy. She can have bleeding, she can have a leakage in the midnight, and at time if she's far from the clinic which she's already booked with, it might not be possible for her to get an emergency care. So we make it a point that she should be booked with a clinic that should be within the vicinity where she can book any time, and at the same time there should be a good NICU care available in the nearby hospital in case if there is any major call in the child is being born premature, that child will be given immediate attention. So all these issues we discuss in advance before actually entering.
As far as concerned, my experience regarding what Crystal is says something regarding the admission of the surrogate mother or putting them in the surrogate houses. Practically, I feel that it is more important to get all the problems, which is more important to getting in the initial 3 months of the period of the pregnancies. So when I'm counseling the patients or intended parents, I love to say something that it is always better to keep the surrogate mothers for initial 3 months in the surrogate houses. This is much more important to give a good carry home pregnancy rates, prevent the infections, prevent the whatever they think all the symptoms, because the chances of the bleeding that what we occurred in the especially in the IVF pregnancy, it is very higher initial 3 months after the transfer and getting a beta HCG positive. So this, as a clinician, I would like to guide my intended parents that it is more important, if you are spending the money or whatever you are doing, that getting a less complications. But we know that in IVF pregnancy, we all are accepting that the first complications is bleeding, initial bleeding, and that surrogate mother is just if she's not nearby, she's calling and everything, the problem arises, she's reaching at the clinic. It is always better to keep the surrogate mother for 3 months near surrogate houses where she can be handled and seen very properly, and giving all the nutritious foods and all the vomiting problems and whatever the things that is much more common during the 3 months of the period. So I'm insisting that couple should have have a surrogate mother for 3 months if they are not choosing the option to keeping the surrogate mothers for 9 months. Now, if they are choosing the option to keeping the mother for a few months, then I will explain them first 3 months and then last after 34 weeks of the pregnancy. This is the one options. I will be very strict and explaining the intended parents, it is for you for getting a good outcomes. And second option, I'm always explaining, if there is no any worried about the whatever things that to getting the surrogate mothers in the 9-month surrogate houses, and if they are very happy to see all the clean surrogate houses of India, I would like to say that it is one of the best option that to offer to the surrogate mothers. Yes. Now the second thing regarding that surrogate mothers, what we are doing at present, that especially for the international surrogacy, when it is referred by any surrogacy agency, main our job is that we have to screen out of this surrogate mothers whether you want to put yourself for 9 months without any difficulty. Are you mentally agree? Are you have something no problem from your husband part or for your child part? When she is agreed about, she mentally very confident, yes sir, I want to keep myself for 9 months in surrogate houses, I'll be more happier putting that surrogate mother in the first category of line to inform my intended parents that these are the surrogate mothers list where they are very mentally agree and they're confident, they are convenient to keep themselves in the 9 month for the surrogacy in surrogate houses. And the second thing is that when the intended parents not willing to put the surrogate mothers for 9 months, I will get I'm not giving any option like that. Don't go for any admission. I will always say stick to 3 months early 3 months and then last 2-month admissions in our surrogate houses. So it will be more convenient and giving more results and more outputs for any intended parents.
Did you have a thought?
Yeah, our policies usually we keep them for till the pregnancy test is done. Once the pregnancy test is found to be positive, we do a scan after 1 week. If there is singleton pregnancy which matches with the date, then as per previous discussion and mutual agreement between the surrogate and the intending parent, she can be allowed home. If it is straightforward singleton pregnancy, we explain her that what wrong can happen, like bleeding. In any case of emergency, she has to report and she should be ready for admission at that time. Like any other patient, she will be treated at that time, and if she's settled, she will be sent home. And again at 36 weeks, she stays on till delivery. That is the routine with us. Unless there is a mutual agreement between the IPs and the surrogate that she is ready to stay for 9 months, they want her to stay and she is also ready to stay. In that case, we keep her in the surrogate house. That is the usual routine with us.
And maybe one or both
Why?
or two of you can share thoughts in regards to C-sections. That question is asked of me a lot. It seems like whenever intended parents do surrogacy in India, probably 90 or 95% of the births are by C-section. Do you prefer C-section or do you prefer natural birth?
Usually we prefer to have not. It's not surrogacy per se is not an indication for cesarean section, because usually while we select the surrogate, they are usually low risk obstetric patients. They usually have had one or two previously normal deliveries and uneventful pregnancies. So they are low obstetric risk, and if they can have normal delivery, let them have normal delivery. Why force the section on them? So it's according to the obstetric indications.
When it is indicated, definitely we will do that. But just for the sake that it's a surrogacy child, we are doing the cesarean. It's not like that. At the same time, it is true that most of the time we are dealing either with twins. So that could be the
that
reason
is the
that we are
indication
finding
for
that
C-section usually because twins are quite common.
So it is not like
surrogate pregnancies.
singleton pregnancy going smooth, reaching to term, good healthy child, no obstetric complication. The only thing is surrogacy, and we are doing the C-section.
Yes, my opinion is
Usually,
same.
rather the complication rates in surrogacy are less, very less. The reason being, we become extra careful during their obstetric care that this is a precious pregnancy. So we might skip one or two things in routine pregnancies, but in surrogacy pregnancies, we become extra careful. So if there is any complication, it is detected well before time and is immediate attention is given to that. So as far as C-section rate is concerned, it is less as compared to naturally conceived.
And even if they are under domiciliary care, we ask them to report every week. So it's more frequent than the usual antenatal care. Like for other normal antenatal patients, it's not so frequent. So
And it's probably, I think,
complication
maybe
is,
a lot of the clinics that
reported.
do like high numbers of, surrogacies, they seem to always, probably 99.9% of the time, do C-sections.
Yeah,
Clients
are-
ask all the time
yeah,
because
I'm-
obviously in the U.S.
that is the
the
favored
the
route
births-
at many places.
the births go
but still,
longer than they do in India. Generally,
Yes.
by week 38, 39, a baby is born in India.
Crystal, what you say is very right, that we have to accept the truth that is available in India, and we are also accepting that yes, there are chances of very higher chances of C-section, but what my colleague says that there are multiple pregnancies in the surrogate mothers. But let us say something, that we are interested to transfer the least number of the embryos nowadays, that we change our scenario to transfer of third day. We are always transfer on the 5th day blastocysts, where we transfer only 2 blastocysts, and we are so much intended to transfer when the intended parents are very agreed, and we are so much confident to get a transfer of the, when they are interested, then we are also interested to transfer only single embryo to prevent the cesarean section, to prevent the complication, to prevent the neonatal admissions. So whatever the things, this all depending upon your policy to transfer, and then you can handle it out this at the end of the day. If you transfer more, at the end of the day, multiple pregnancies very higher, we all people should have to take a decision to go for cesarean section to prevent something. It's a preterm labor, in the very higher chances of preterm labor in the twin pregnancy, where the, I will say, the cesarean section will be the answer. The improper implantation of the placenta and bleeding problems is very higher in the twin pregnancy. The result answer is cesarean section. So that's why what we can agree with Crystal, that she is very right, because she is very near to India's, that we are having a more cesarean sections in India in the
At the same time,
surrogate
it is
mothers.
true that the intended parents, they come and the first thing that they'll ask, doctor, can I have twins at one time? And recently I'm encountering patients, especially from Africa. They are coming from the African continent. They are not happy even with the twins. They say, doctor, can I have triplets at one time? I say,
See,
"God."
that is, I got
So,
answer
we
for
need
that.
to be-
I think even
I got
they
that-
have to be
I
counseled
got-
properly. The singleton pregnancy is the best option you can have,
Yes.
because that has got least complication rates.
See,
Now it takes us around 10-15 minutes every time to explain them, look, it is not that at one time you can grab each and everything and go back home. It is more important to have a healthy child rather than to have one of the children being born premature or having some mental retardation because of prematurity and all that.
see,
So we have to keep all these things informed, because anybody would love that if they are going for surrogacy, to have 2 kids, 1 son or 1 daughter or 2 sons, so that their family is completed in one shot. But it's not that rosy as seems to be. We have to be realistic when we are demanding. At the same time, we have to be realistic on our part when we are promising certain things. So that's why I say that it's more.
And as per ICMR guidelines, as it is, they have put a restriction of maximum 3 embryos to be replaced at a time, unless there are certain indications like advanced age, previous failures, and so on.
See, if we consider, we forget about the surrogacy, as we know that world, if we consider that, forget about surrogacy in the Europe and USA, people are still, when we attend very good conferences, they are still thinking about transferring of the minimum 2 embryos and single embryos. See, this is a wish of the intended parents to get a 2 child. But as a doctor, we have to explain the major risk of preterm deliveries, the neonatal outcomes. So isn't it very something like always be practical and scientific, that because these intended parents never know that what are the psychological upset will be going on when she delivered at 20 weeks, and doctors and the parents will never do anything else. So the chances of preterm deliveries are very high, and that's why I can say something, you transfer 3 embryos, and if we require the fetal reductions or something, they want, because see, continuations, as a clinician I will like put so much stress on that. The triplet pregnancy, if you consider the Indian pelvis of the Indian female pelvis, it is very difficult to sustain the 3 triplet pregnancy up to the term size of the pregnancy, where the chances of preterm delivery is too high. If you continue this type of things, then ultimately there are most of the more neonatal admissions, the neurological complications that intended parents never knows. So we have to explain and follow the policy that maximum 2 embryo, we never transfer 3, because now my lab, we are so much confirmed. We transfer only 2 blastocysts, and we are insisting so much couple to transfer single blastocyst, because when we are so much sure that freezing other embryos, we will get 100% singleton pregnancy outcome, and that will much more better than giving us something at that type of neonatal outcome.
I think it's good that your clinic is going to blastocysts, because that's what we do here in the U.S. And so many clinics in India really don't do that, and I hope more move towards that. Another question that I would like to ask all 3 of you is, what myths would you like to dispel about international couples pursuing surrogacy in India?
Again, I should start?
Whoever wants to start, because there are a lot of myths out there. So you guys live there, so tell us what you think.
I would like to add one statement that anything can go wrong anywhere in the world with anybody. So we need to know 2 things, that there are no shortcuts. The problem happens when we try to take shortcuts. That when we say, I do take calls from my patients when they keep hammering on me, doctor, we have been enrolled from last 1 month, and why you are not doing something? It's 1.5 months. I do tell them that look, initially it might take a long time, but we need to do all the things properly. And now things are so easy. They have been so formulated that this is the step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. If we are following all those things, there are no mess. But till now, and I think it will continue for another few years, that people try to take shortcuts, not only the IPs but also the clinics. So during those shortcuts, just to convince the IPs that look, you are at the best clinic, we will do this, we will do that, making false promises to attract the clients. Initially it seems very good, and the clinics will get the clients as well. This is not a big thing, but ultimately, if we are not able to fulfill those promises, that will happen, because it is practically not possible that if we are not following the guidelines and you are not doing the complete paperwork and just making false promises, the things are going to take a wrong shape, and then those problems that comes into media will come into definitely existence. So just complete the paperwork, be patient, don't be unrealistic in making demands as well as in making promises is the key, that there should not be any mess. This was the mess that I think was there in the Indian surrogacy marketing business, that there were too many unrealistic promises being made by the clinics to the IPs that landed up in all these troubles.
Yeah, and as a businesswoman and traveling to India very often, I can say that India is not the answer for everyone, and it takes a special person really to do surrogacy in India. I happen to be one of those special people.
Yeah, I think it's a repeated counseling with the clinic. I mean, the patients from abroad cannot meet face to face immediately, so there has to be counseling through the net, and there has to be repeated rounds of counseling to allay all the anxieties and to remove all the doubts from their minds. And as Dr. Neeraj has rightly pointed out, there are no shortcuts. There should not be false promises. All the situations which can come, which can go right and wrong, should be explained to them beforehand, so that there won't be undue expectations, because things can go wrong even in US.
See, it's basically a trust business. Anybody coming to me, I have made all the inquiries that look, yeah, and she said that I can do, I'll be abiding all the rules, regulations, everything I'll be doing. But ultimately, we are dealing with humans. They can change their mind anytime, and this can happen. Though, no matter how much we carefully do the screenings and all that, especially staying in the surrogate homes, they do get homesick. I have never ever seen a surrogate who has initially said that she'll be sticking to the surrogate home, staying at surrogate home for 9 months. They do feel sick because there are so many emotional and hormonal changes happening in their body during the pregnancy. And at that time, you said that you will be staying in the surrogate home, so you can't go to visit your family, or you can't go back. These are the little changes that we have to tell the IPs that these things can happen, and we might have to adjust to all these kinds.
Right, and I think it's easy to adjust because I've worked with a doctor in Delhi, and at her surrogate house, the children are allowed to stay with the mother.
Yeah, we do
Yes,
allow
that is
them
fine.
to
It's
stay.
a very good
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
We do
Every 2
allow.
months we have a festival, like 3 months. So they also during the festival time, they should be with their family. So we have to make arrangements. Either the family is moving to the surrogate homes, or the surrogate for the time being moving to their house, celebrating the festival, and then they come back.
So,
We have
You
to
can't make hard and fast rules when you are dealing with the human beings, and that has to be understood by both parties.
honestly, this is very fine. That transparency and truth is really we as a Indian, whatever we are seeking, all the our colleagues, and we all want to transfer all these things. We are always very truth. Whatever the truth will be, we transfer. And for that, I think so. That's something repeated, some meetings or Skype consultation. What he says, what she says, that is required for that. And for that, what we at the end of the experience of all these things, we are creating a special portal for the surrogacy intended parents from the USA, where we can get all the communication. So sometimes what I feel that some communication gap will create so many problems and issues. If you create that good way of communications, at the end of the day, this all will be something, all problem will go.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions, or DG?
Actually, about the agreement, now they can be done online. I'll come to that point during my lecture, but they can be done now online. Previously, they had to come, and they could come on tourist visa, but now they can sign, the agreement can be done and mailed to them. They have to sign in front of an Indian notary, that is the embassy in their home countries, and then they can send a hard copy which can be signed by a surrogate in India.
It's
In front of
basically
notary.
different for the different countries, but for US, like there are minimum of 2 visits are needed. One, these 2 visits should be on medical visa. One at the time when we are going to do the treatment, and second visit when they are going to take the baby back home. And before that, if they want to come and meet the doctor, they want to inquire about the clinic, get themselves enrolled, they can come on travel visa. And if they don't want to, what Dr. Anjali has said, that the IPs can get themselves enrolled with the clinic, and the clinic can select a tentative surrogate, get the agreement made, and that agreement will be couriered to the intended parent. They will go through that agreement. If they want to put an additional clause to that, they can discuss with the clinic, and if it has something related with the surrogate, then that clause needs to be discussed with the surrogate, and if all the 3 agrees to that, then that clause can also be added into the agreement. And once everything falls into place, they will sign that agreement. We will and courier back to the clinic. And based on that notarized agreement and an invitation letter from the clinic and other formalities that need to be fulfilled, the IPs can apply for the medical visa. And if they are doing all these paperwork, it is very simple job to get a medical visa. And once the medical visa is done, then they can synchronize their cycle with the surrogate if the IPs can using their own eggs. And if not, then they can come anytime, give their samples. We can either freeze it, or at the same visit we can use it for the fresh transports and freeze it for the future use, so that the couple is not supposed to come again and again for the treatment. Once the result is there, if they wish to come and meet the surrogate, they can come on travel visa, or else what is required is coming on medical visa at the time of delivery when they have to take the baby back home. See, it's not like that only we are selecting surrogates. Now the criteria are very clear that what things this clinics should look into when selecting a surrogate. But definitely yes, the IPs have a say in selecting the surrogate, provided those demands are realistic. Like there are certain couples who will say that they want a surrogate of that particular origin, should be of that medical education background. And that's what I was coming to, because that's what I was coming, that demands like this, that the surrogate should be from that particular religion, should be from that education background. See, to a level, education, yes, makes a difference, because when we are selecting a surrogate, we need to find out that that surrogate should be intelligent enough to understand what procedure she is going through, what can be its implications, what are her rights, what are her duties. If we are dealing with a woman who is completely illiterate, I think that it will be difficult for the clinics or for the agencies to follow all those guidelines. But at the same time, if the IP is asking that we want to graduate, we want to postgraduate, these are really unrealistic demands, to be very honest. The reason being, at the one point we are talking about cost factor, and at the same time if you are adding up these clauses that she should be very beautiful, she should be fair, she should be tall, at times we do get such kind of demands. So I always tell my IPs that the very first demand you should put into that she should be physically and mentally fit to carry the child. And if besides that they have any other demands, like the surrogate should be staying at the surrogate home, or the domiciliary care should be given, or they want a single child or a second child, if they are worried about a particular genetic disease, though we do screen out, but if they are worried about a particular genetic disease and they want to have an additional test should be done in the surrogate before actually starting the treatment, we can go for all those tests. These are the realistic medical demands.
I would like to add one thing. Basically, apart from medical, just as Dr. Neeraj mentioned, medical and psychological fitness is vital in selecting a surrogate, and she should be free of all the infections which could be harmful to the baby. But genetic screening is needed for donor. It is not needed for surrogate, because surrogate is a gestational carrier. She has no genetic links with the baby. So genetic screening actually is not needed for the surrogate.
I was talking
It
about
is only
particular diseases, like if the surrogate has a strong family history of diabetes, strong family history of hypertension, if she is Rh negative, all these things, they can have impact on the ongoing pregnancies. Because now it is a proven fact that if the gestational carrier is herself a diabetic, or she has a first degree relative with a strong diabetic history, then the child, irrespective of the genetic material, is at high risk of being born with all these things.
Thank you guys. Thanks for the panel discussion. If anybody has any other questions, you feel free to.
Indian
It
couples.
varies.
Maybe.
Yes, yes.
More than the American couples.
Yeah.
It's always more.
Indian clients
Yeah.
Indians will be more in number. Obviously, yeah.
So now there are so many Indian couples are also coming out for the surrogacy and everything.
There's need for that treatment everywhere.
Great. Thank you, guys. If anybody wants to talk to the docs or have any further questions, feel free. They'll be here for a little while. I think Dr. Jahashi's leaving in about an hour, so try to catch him before he catches his flight back. Thanks.